Welcome back. You're watching News 9. The world of cinema has lost an iconic Indian figure today. Veteran filmmaker Shyam Benegal passed away at the age of 90 this evening. The end came at the Wokhard Hospital in Mumbai, and taking the baton from the likes of Satyajit Ray, Ritvik Ghatak, Bimal Roy, Mrinal Sen, Tapan Sinha, and many others. Benegal belonged to a generation of filmmakers who led the new wave cinema movement in our country. Many of his films, starting from the 1970s, gained international recognition and national honors as well. When the television age dawned on India, he entered the small screen with Bharat Ek Khoj, a 53-episode serial based on Jawaharlal Nehru's book, The Discovery of India. His films such as Ankur, his directorial debut, Nishant, Mandi, Manthan, Bhumika, Junoon, Mamo and Sardari, among the others, delved deep into the socio-cultural churn of an India marching towards change. Shyam Benegal led an active life till the end. Just last year, he had come out with a biographical film based on the life of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman called Mujib, The Making of a Nation. Now, Shyam Benegal is survived by his wife, Neera Benegal, and daughter. Veteran filmmaker Shyam Benegal passes away at the age of 90. His daughter, Pia Benegal, confirmed that he died on the evening of 23rd of December at Wokhard Hospital in Mumbai, where he had been receiving treatment for a chronic kidney disease. And the news comes shortly after he celebrated his 90th birthday on the 14th of December. Shyam Benegal, like we've mentioned before, was a towering figure when it comes to Indian cinema, a true pioneer of what people call the parallel cinema movement, even as India from the 1970s started marching towards a new India, known for his realistic storytelling that had a rural tinge, talking about the problems of the marginalized. My colleague Sudha Sadanan now joins us on the broadcast here. Sudha, needless to say, not just the film industry, but the entire country, we're all feeling poorly right now.
Absolutely. Only a couple of days ago, Shyam Benegal, or Shyam Babu as he was popularly known as, celebrated his 90th birthday. A man who was distantly related to Gurudat Padukone, Shyam Benegal began his career as somebody in advertising in a company called Blaze, and that's why his films were called Blaze. And he made several films like Manthan, Ankur 1973, which actually introduced Shabana Azmi and put her into the limelight. There is Ankur, there is Manthan, Hari Bhari, there is Trikal and Bhumika, one of the most brilliant performances. And he's known for somebody who does cinema, who did cinema. I'm still speaking, about him as if it's the present tense. But Shyam Benegal did cinema which had a very strong message, Those were the days when NFDC would fund his films, and he made several films, and he was one of them who, after Ray, I think, so far as Hindi cinema is concerned, actually led the torch. And along with him, Govind Nilani, who also, of course, later did several films. This was a gang, if I can use that word, who believed in realistic cinema. And who, Manthan, what a beautiful story, Kabir. It's based on Amul, how milk cooperatives came up and a small village in Gujarat. And Mandi, also a film about sex workers. I can go on and on, but yes, a gem, has gone away forever from the firmament of Indian cinema. Kabir.
So that you've thrown, light on some of Shyam Benegal's most influential films. Could you also tell the viewers about his key and importance, his role when you're talking about the parallel, cinema in India that he, sort of led like a torchbearer?
Well, the thing is that in the 1970s, the angry young man concept came, to the fore with Mr. Bachchan and Salim Javed. So the commercial cinema, there was Diwar in 1975, etc., etc. Sholay, of course, came after Diwar. But at that time, to say, okay, I'm going to make the kind of cinema which is not commercialized, but which has a strong kind of connect with real India, was a very bold step. Where will you get money today, to make such films? But Shyam Benegal paved the way for thousands of others because this cinema told a story, and not in the boring kind of staid way, but in what is called cinematic excellence. He was a great fan of Satyajit Ray, Mrinal Sen, etc., and of course Fellini and Godard. And that really inspired his cinema. So Ankur came. On the one hand, you had an angry young man. Ankur was about an angry young woman who protested against the zamindari system in, Andhra Pradesh. So look at the parallel of it. One man, Amitabh Bachchan, and the other was Shabana Azmi. So I think that was his fantastic kind of contribution to Indian cinema, Kabir.
He also touched upon a lot of social issues. His films always had that rural tinge, speaking for the voiceless, problems of the marginalized. He sort of championed that cause, didn't he, Sudha?
Absolutely, like Ankur was about, farm hands working in the farm of a very influential zamindar. So, and the last scene I remember, Kabir, where a little child throws a stone at the window of the zamindar, meaning the protest and the revolution has begun. When you speak about Manthan, like I said, it's about, the Amul dairy and about how farmers need to have a good deal. Hari Bhari was about a woman's right over her body and family planning. So, even Welcome to Sajjanpur, I mean, that had a message about how letter writing is actually a dying art, and around it is what love flourishes.
All right, so do stay on with us on the broadcast. Mr. Atul Tiwari, film writer and director, also with us on the broadcast. Mr. Tiwari, how are you looking at these developments? Certainly somebody who's known for blurring, the genre lines. I mean, we've lost him. Shyam Benegal, no more with us.
Yes, Kabir, I mean, it's one of the saddest days for not only me and us who have been associated with Mr. Shyam Benegal, but for Indian cinema. Because here was a man who, with his answer in 1924, started a new revolution. The mainstay of parallel cinema, so to say. Others before him, but he was the man who consistently made films. Before me saying that whether it was Pur or Nishan, after that Manthan, they were all kind of rural, the whole rural trilogy of these voiceless people who gave a voice. Of course, as was said when the little boy was the stone. I was very fortunate to have written a book on him, especially written for his 90th birthday, which fell on the 14th of December. That means just a week back. And I was so lucky that he came out to the hospital, came to the office. This I was so happy with this. One of the first sentences of my book is that in Shyam Benegal's first film, the last scene, that little boy throws a stone and smashes the window. He also, in a way, smashed last scene for Indian cinema. Was such a certain moment. And then from there, it gets a bit of new light. A lot of new things are in it. Whether it was films, whether it was a film with a touch of humor like Mandi, whether it was two of his very, very humorous films like Welcome to Sajjanpur and Beld and Abba. Later, the second last film and the third last film, they were full of humor, and while you laugh, you kind of, as if somebody is pricking you with a thorn, bleeding, and yet you are laughing. Bleeding at the caste system of this country, you're bleeding at the kind of religious systems. All the kind of these focus which he talks in Surgeon or Elden, how bureaucracy lets you steal a well. Well, stolen because everything is happening on the paper, all the progress and all the laying is happening on the paper and not in the reality, not in the villages. And his very last film, Mujib, The Making of a Nation, which I wrote for him with my co-writer, Sham Bedi, and how it told the story of father nation of Desh, Rahman. When the film was released, it did not be present at the release. It was only end has come. But the films will live forever. It's my tribute to him, like the whole nation is paying a tribute to him.
Well, Komal Nahata, film critic and author, also joins us on the broadcast. Mr. Tiwari, do stay on with us. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Nahata. We're all talking about how the film industry is feeling very poorly, but the legacy and the continued relevance of somebody like Shyam Benegal, it knows no bounds now, does it?
Yes, it definitely knows no bounds. He actually was one of the pioneers of the art film movement, middle of the road cinema, and his films, there was a loyal audience which used to swear by his films. So he had a lot of fans and a lot of lovers of his kind of cinema.
All right. And, I mean, we were talking about Bharat Ek Khoj, how he took a plunge into the small screen, the television serial-based episode. A lot of those top actors at that point in time also made a beeline right after him, isn't it?
Definitely. As I said, he was a trendsetter in many more ways than one. When the small screen was not was considered, not to be touched by the film people, he took the leap and he said, no, I'll make a TV serial. And what a roaring success it was. Bharat Ek Khoj was a huge success. It was after that a lot of people thought that let us also go to television. So I think he was a visionary in that sense of the word.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Not just a trendsetter, but a visionary as well. I mean, take a look at how he's cherry-picked some of those really good actors that we still talk about today. You've got Shabana Azmi, Nasiruddin Shah, Smita Patil. These are some top names that Shyam Benegal sort of like cherry-picked himself.
Yes, 100%. 100%. He was very particular about whom he used to sign for which role. And there used to be no compromises as far as casting is concerned.
What are some of the most, recognized films of this man? We're talking about Ankur, we're talking about Manthan, Nishant, we're talking about Bhumika as well, Mujib, that was also mentioned. Any one of your particular favorites?
Ankur, Manthan, I think all, because they were so different from what was made during his time. I saw his Mujibur Rahman recently. Of course, that was a bit too lengthy. I didn't like it too much. But the other films, Ankur, Manthan, I think they were all wonderful. Bhumika, all were wonderful films.
All right. Any anecdotal memory or instance that you'd like to share with the viewers here, Komal?
I had invited him for my show, Komal Nahata Aur Ek Kahani. It's a very funny incident. And he came for the show, but the shirt that he was wearing did not go with the background. So now what is to be done? He said, Arey, but Komal, main to rehta hoon. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was far away from the studio. So we said, sir, hum aapke liye ek shirt mangwa le. And he looked, he said, mangwaoge? I said, yeah, we'll go and buy. And it was an early morning shooting. The shops had not opened. So we sent a man to the mall and we said, as soon as the shop opens, you better get this size shirt and come back fast, because he was getting late. He had to go somewhere else. But he cooperated so well. He was such a sweetheart. We got him a shirt. He wore it. He shot the episode and he rushed because he said, I have to reach there. I've said that we had told him it will take 1 hour. But about 35 minutes went in just getting a shirt for him. But then, of course, he extended the time and he told them, that I'll be a little late because aise ho gaya, mera shirt ka color background se match kar raha hai, so I have to get a new shirt and shops are closed. So I will never forget this incident. He was such a darling.
Well, Mr. Nahata, many thanks for sharing that with us and the viewers as well. But, we were talking about my colleague Sudha and Mr. Tiwari, actor and writer who was with us on the broadcast. We were talking about how Shyam Benegal's films influenced contemporary Indian filmmakers and filmmaking for the longest time. Could you throw some light on that as well?
Yes, because, I think he was so passionate about films, not just about films. Although he used to make middle of the road cinema, he was a learner. All his life, he used to keep his eyes and ears open, and he has, in a way, he had his ear to the ground, and therefore even though he used to make the middle of the road cinema or the parallel cinema, his films were never condemned, or people didn't say, "Arey, ye kya picture bana di." That is why I say he was not just passionate, but he had a feel of the public taste and the public pulse in that given sphere of his. It's not that he used to make commercial films, but in that art film movement or the parallel cinema movement, he was very clued on about what the people expected of him, and therefore he used to deliver exactly what they used to expect of him.
You use the word middle of the road cinema. To the layman out there that, wouldn't ring any bells normally, could you also throw some light on some, really avant-garde cinematic techniques that were incorporated by, let's say, Shyam Benegal, that then became sort of like a brand Benegal cinematic technique way to go?
No, I wouldn't be able to throw light on that because I was when these films came, I was quite young, and but I think he used to not really rush through any scenes. He used to take his own time, and the best part was, although his films were slow, they were never boring. There's a very thin line between slow-paced screenplay and boring screenplay. He made sure that although his films moved at a slow pace and at an easy pace, they had their own pace. His films never had a dull moment or never had a boring moment, which is why his films always got extraordinary reviews, because sometimes parallel cinema or middle of the road cinema can get very boring and you just lose interest. Whether it was Bharat Ek Khoj, the TV serial, or his films, Nishant or Bhumika or Ankur, I think, and plus his actors were always so extraordinary in his films. He used to take special efforts to ensure that his actors shone like they had rarely shown before that.
Wow,
You know?
that's a very nice way of putting it. And Mr. Nata, even as we're showcasing and flashing all those tributes that are now pouring in for the great veteran filmmaker, Shyam Benegal's portrayal of this, realistic social commentary, this socio-political issues that also changed public perception. I mean, I personally feel, in my limited opinion, that we do need somebody like that in today's time as well. But he did end changing the, perception of the larger public, the larger multitude, and how?
Definitely. People file cases against films and say, what type of an example will this film set and all. Frankly, commercial cinema is never about educating or imparting knowledge or trying to create a movement or trying to, get a viewpoint across. But his cinema definitely was of that kind. It used to educate the public. It used to help them formulate an opinion. In that sense, it was very, very informative. And a lot of people used to understand the socio-political climate in the country thanks to his cinema. So his cinema, you could say, yes, it had a responsibility, and he used to use that responsibility beautifully because he never really played around with whether social issues or political issues. He never played around with them. He never really sort of tried to make a fast buck. Chalo, let me exploit this. No, he used it very intelligently and he used it very carefully because he knew he had a responsibility towards the public and towards the country.
You're absolutely right. I think because he respected the social cause so much himself, he couldn't cross that line. He knew about the responsibility that he was holding. Now, out of these social issues, Mr. Komal, gender inequality was some of his, favorite facets as well. The way he represented women, the way he challenged the patriarchal norms as well. I mean, again, talking about 2024, I think again we need somebody like that in today's time to really, with that ease, put forth that idea out, inseminate that idea into the public. Gender issues,
100%.
gender inequality was a very favorite topic for him. Over to you.
100%. And all the more reason we need them now because with the smaller capacity multiplexes in the good old days when he used to make cinema, the cinemas used to be huge houses, so 800-seater, 1,000-seater, and therefore it was very difficult for his kind of films to get even 50% audience. But today with the multiplexes, you have 100-seaters, 200-seaters, 50-seaters, 70-seaters. I actually feel this is the right time for his kind of cinema.
Wow.
And it's quite shocking that nobody has come in his place. I mean, his shoes are very difficult to fill, but someone on his lines could actually flourish very well, because that middle of the road cinema, that parallel cinema, could also become commercial, because the cinema houses are so small and limited capacity cinemas that you don't need 500 and 400 people to really break even. Today, you can break even in a 100-seater. I mean, 100-seater
No, you're
cinemas,
absolutely
you
right.
can make, and those films can run in those multiplexes and make money. So there is a need for another Shyam Benegal or some disciple of his, some follower of his, to really make this kind of
You rightly
cinema.
pointed out, Mr. Komal, that those shoes are too big to fill, and how we revere our elders here in Indian culture and tradition. I think those shoes are going to be kept aside. We need somebody else to now emulate somebody like Shyam Benegal. But with Veer Zara and all these old films now making their way to the multiplexes, maybe a Shyam Benegal trilogy, a Shyam Benegal marathon run would right now do the entire public a lot of favor. It is a pedagogical, academic Shyam Benegal 101. Komal Nahata, film critic and author, many thanks for joining us on the broadcast here. Ladies and gentlemen, a veteran filmmaker that we've lost. Certainly, the entire film industry is a poor, poor place without somebody like Shyam Benegal. 1934, 2024. Our condolences and tributes to Mr. Benegal and his family.